This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Yeah!
Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky finger culture from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me, where in the world is
Nanne?
Watching this Wild and Rangers game, and whoever this commentator is like the chillest dude on the planet. Like, he's borderline putting me to sleep. I don't know who this guy is, but okay.
Interesting. A soundbite referring to our guest. I wonder how Luigi will take it. Will he take it as a compliment, or will he take it as a bit of savagery? Which way do you go, Louie?
Well, I take it as a compliment. I'm going to start talking to myself so I can get to sleep earlier.
Maybe that's the ticket. I hadn't even thought of that. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah.
You record what you could do is record yourself, and then that way you don't actually have to be talking, because it's hard to fall asleep while you're talking, but it'll be your voice putting you to sleep. How good is that?
See, you outtaught me there. That's a good idea.
We'll send you some podcasts.
Yeah, we got.
We'll send you some of your podcasts with Dan.
Yeah,
Okay.
The chillest dude on the planet, Lou Nanne.
That's pretty good. Yeah, how did you find that?
The traveling secretary, Dominic Hennig, his wife sent it from Minneapolis. She says, she's like, we got thousands of followers on this comment.
That's too good.
I don't know what TikTok is, so I'm not into that. I don't.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with it because my daughter is, but yeah, I'm not. I don't spend a lot of time on it either. But it's big, Louie. They tell me it's really, 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 really big. So that's good. Of course, Luigi tracking the Minnesota Wild on the road trip, Dateline New York last night, and we get a victory. We played a team that was struggling offensively even more than we were. Correct?
No, they're struggling more at home.
At home, exactly.
They hadn't scored a goal.
Yes.
They hadn't scored a goal, and had we gotten to 7.5 minutes, they would have set the record going back to 1926 or 28 they would have broke the record. It would have been the longest ever going without a goal like that at home, and they scored 57 seconds into the first period, so they didn't get that part of it, but the fact was they got one. You would expect that they were going to get a lot more. They finally broke and got off the snag, but they didn't. And it was really a fun game. It was an exciting game, but the Wild played so well. The Wild were just moving their feet continually. They were moving the puck, getting pucks out quickly. They were supporting one another. The goaltenders on both teams were terrific. They both had to make sensational saves to keep it close, and I was happy Yurov got his first goal, and he got it in Madison Square Gardens against maybe the best goaltender in the league, another Russian, Shesterkin, and Kaprizov had 6 family members there. His mom and dad were there, and he got the third one in the open net, so Russians had a big night.
It's interesting to me because Garch and I have talked about this both on radio and TV, and I don't know if you and I have talked about it recently. You have, a lot of forces that are, I think, to a certain extent, I guess you could say, contradicting each other for this team. On the one hand, you've got some veterans, okay, and you have a team that is hungry to get out of the first round, right, of the playoffs. Haven't done that in 10 years. On the other hand, I think it's common knowledge that you got to find out among some of these young guys whether any of them or enough of them can ascend, right? Get better and become an important part of the solution. And the danger, as you know, of playing young guys sometimes is they can screw up. And so I think there's a tendency on a team that's kind of been stuck in the middle like the Wild to not want to risk that. So how does this team go about threading the needle, Louie, on still trying to compete in the present, but still also coming to grips with we've got to evaluate these young guys, and the only way we can truly evaluate them isn't just from practice, especially once the season begins. It has to be in games itself. How do you thread that needle? How do you perfect that balancing act?
It has to be in games itself. And I know coaches get upset, and not the head coach, but I was talking to one of the assistant coaches talking about the game, and Beam had made a mistake. It's, hey, he's a kid, 19. He's sensational. He's the best defensive defenseman you got. Let him make mistakes. You can't be playing this guy down in the minors. And no, wouldn't do that. But he'll have to learn. I said, yeah, he's 19. But the last guy that made a mistake is on the cross. So don't worry about it. So you let these guys grow. And I was happy they did the same with Urov. That, Urov made a couple mistakes, and actually he was involved in that first goal on the coverage. But they have skills and talents that will grow. And the good part about it, when they're young and skilled and talented, like that talent, they'll grow faster and make more positive contributions than their negative mistakes will make, because they have a unique skill, content. And I love watching them. I think that had there not been these injuries that the Wild have suffered early on, they got significant injuries right now without Zuccarello and Rossi and Bogosian. They might not have been in the lineup. And now right. Now you're going to find out that they're going to pass other guys in the lineup. Well, by the end of the year, and then you have to watch who you play them with too. If there's some deficiencies that have to be covered, that you know are significant, and you want to make sure you want to play them, but you still have to cover up for some of the things that individual does, and you play them with more experienced guys, and that can help them in that area.
Louis, as always, is brought to us by Kemp's. We appreciate their fine support for this segment. We'll remind you can hit the text line, the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686, as many of you have, regarding hockey questions for Luigi. And we'll mix in some other stuff. I got a couple other things I want to get to with him a little bit later as well, outside the world of hockey. A year ago, this team got off to a terrific start, right? And then they had some injuries, and then they started coming back to the table. And then it basically went down, if you recall, to the last day, for God's sake. One extra goal was the difference between making it and not making it. So knowing what you know about the slog of a season that this is, how should the Wild approach the regular season? Because we all know sooner or later it's got to be about getting out of the first round. How do they, there's that question about, well, the best way to prepare yourself to make a playoff run is to use the regular season as a sounding board, to figure some stuff out, to experiment, to use different lineups, to use some of the kids. Now, the downside is you got to make sure you make the playoffs, obviously. But so it's another balancing act, I think, that's really important in terms of the proper approach you think this team should take this season.
Well, it is a balancing act, but I really believe that you have to let these kids grow, because the one good thing that they have got going for them, the core of this hockey team, the best players are young. The best players are young, so you've got a long runway with them. But they have to start, skating on that runway. You got to start using them, which they're doing. Especially a couple of them. I can see Bouillon and Urov making mistakes, but they've got to be patient and let them play, because by the end of the year, those two guys are going to be, I think, much better than some of the guys that they got in the lineup right now. And Bouillon's not even going to be that long. Right now, he's the best offensive defenseman they got. Yeah, he makes mistakes defensively, but if he didn't, he'd be in a first team All-Star right now. You gotta learn to play this game.
Sure.
And he's only 19. So when I watch him out there with the poise with the puck in his own zone, in traffic, and under pressure, and it's like he's out having a walk in the park. He doesn't show the effect of having pressure on him. He doesn't seem nervous or concerned. He just makes the move he thinks to get free, and he gets free, and he moves the puck up. And every now and then he might get checked, and that's what hockey is. You're supposed to check the opposition, and sometimes they're going to get him. But I'm so impressed by how he's been able to get the puck out of the zone, get the puck of ice, and on the power play, because they're able to have him on the power play, he has such a good presence bringing the puck up ice. If it looks like the guys are going to cut off his drop pass back because they always have two forwards come behind, he just skates the puck in. You know what's happened? Last year, the power play wasn't very good. They weren't getting any good entries in the zone when I was watching. So they had to put Marcus Johansson, who was really good at bringing the pucks up over the blue line and getting in the zone. Now they don't have to put him on the first one. So now they got better players on the first power play up front because Beams always finds a way to get that puck in the zone, and they can use Johansson on the second to bring a better balance to it. And now you're up front. He's been checking. He's been making good plays. He set up his line mates the last couple of games 3 times where somebody should have had a goal. And they were able to use him at center. They started him at the wing early on. They didn't want to put all that pressure on him. And he played center in the KHL, and he had a terrific a couple of years there. The last year he was a scoring machine too. So you have to let him get comfortable, especially above everything else. He can't speak English, can't even talk, and here he is playing the best league in the world and playing as a youngster. He has ability, but he's got to find his way, and he's not going to find his way, unless he gets the opportunity to play against good guys and figure it out. And that's what he's doing, I think. And hopefully Ogren comes through too, because if he can, then you got those 3. And by the way, Wallstedt, I hope he continues, but his first 3 games have been sensational. He never had a good year last year. Everybody's getting concerned. Are we going to have to play, Gus 55, 60 games? Now the way he's playing, it's like they're going to alternate a lot of times. And so I think if he continues playing like that, that's a 4th youngster that they'll have on the team in 1 year. So that's I like the fact that if they can win some and stay in the race with these young guys, they'll be better suited for the playoffs and more ready with more depth than they've had before.
Speaking of language, it's interesting as you were talking about that, Tony from Grand Rapids had asked this question earlier. Do younger players like that also have a language barrier on top of youth?
I would think so. I never played with anyone that had that situation, and I just, I just think if I'm on the ice with someone and I want to communicate with them, I tell them, I'm breaking, I'm behind you, go wide, whatever. Mm-hmm. What's he going to say? Something in Russian, you don't know what he's talking about, or what are you going to say? Something in English he doesn't know about. I mean, Kaprizov sounds like a professor right now next to him. He's translating for him. And, and Kirill never spoke English when he first came here either, so it's good. I'm excited about him. I'm really excited about him. I think they made a good pick there.
651 guy asks if there's any possibility of the Wild going after Panarin.
Oh, first of all, they wouldn't have cap space for him right now because Panarin's about $11 million, and I think they only get 4.5. But New York's not going to trade Panarin, and Panarin's got a no trade clause. Panarin's not going to leave New York. That's why I was really concerned about Kaprizov, because the Russians come here and they all want to go to New York, see New York, be in New York. It's a big thing for them, and Panarin, he's the best player on their team. They're not going to let that guy go. Let me tell you, they're selling tickets in New York. The lower bowl's $190. Tomorrow they're going to play in New Jersey here, the Wild are, and the lower bowl's $63. Panarin can't be. You can't sell your star and say, okay, give me $190 for a ticket.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. That's very true. College hockey question for you. I think a 507 guy, this is Ben out of Mankato. He might have asked this last week, and I didn't get it to you in time. Can you ask Lee why Mankato has been passed over for membership to NCHC conference in favor of St. Thomas and Arizona State? WCHA and NCHC should merge. for a super conference with East and West divisions. That's Ben in Mankato. What do you think?
I don't know if they put enough pressure on to do it, and I like his idea. I wish some of these conferences would get together, and those two, that would make a lot of sense. And many times it goes to the travel, it goes to what the other teams in the conference think about going to Mankato or having Mankato come to their place. Mankato's been a big name in college hockey for a while. They've had a great deal of success in the last 10, 15 years. They've been to the Frozen Four. They've won their league championships. Mankato, and they got an excellent program, and they got a nice rink to play in. And you wonder sometimes how they do make those decisions.
Staying with college hockey for a second, give me your early read on your Golden Gopher men's club.
Well, it's kids learning. Only the Wild, we're talking about two kids in the lineup right now up front and one on goal learning. The Gophers lost 11 guys. So you just don't inject 11 guys in the lineup and expect to be a top of the wrong college program right away. They got to learn the game. They got to learn how to play. College hockey is really good. It's really good. It's significantly better than junior hockey, and that's or high school hockey on top of that, even another rung lower. And that's what these guys are in the lineup right now. Great skill, great capability, great futures ahead of them, but a lot of learning ahead of them as well. And so I like the fact that they're that talented, they're explosive. You know that they can win games, but you also know they can lose games by not knowing how to play completely yet. And you're not going to learn this game overnight. And the Gophers, by the end of the year, I really believe they're going to be much better than they are now. Not that they're bad now, but they're learning now, and they're going to get beaten by some good teams. But they got a tough schedule. They're going to play the best teams, and they're going to grow by the end of the year.
So on this trip, you still got Jersey with the Wild tomorrow night, correct?
Right.
Tell me about
that's going to be a tough game.
Tell me about it. Give me a scouting report.
Well, Jersey's really fast, and they have a couple of tremendous forwards. Jack Hughes, who was number one pick a few years ago, and he's healthy, and he's good at all aspects of the game, but especially carrying the puck and moving the puck, scoring goals. And Jasper Bratt, I think they drafted him in the 4th round. He is an unbelievable talent. And what they have is they got a very good defense for moving the puck. They got Dougie Hamilton back, who was one of the best defensemen in the league for a long time before he got hurt. He's big, but he's also a real great offensive defenseman. They got Luke Hughes, the other Hughes, Jack's younger brother. There's 3 Hughes in the NHL right now. And he came out of Michigan, too, and he's growing into his role real well. They got very good balance up front. They got Nico Hirscher as their captain. He's a guy from Switzerland, and he was a number 1 pick too. And he's really an all-around player, good all-around player. So they got very good balance up front, and they're strong where you want to be strong, down the middle. Their center ice is excellent. Their goaltending is solid, and their defense really good at moving the puck. So it's going to be a test tomorrow night. It's going to be a real test tomorrow night. The good thing about the Wild, they're coming off a game where they started to use speed. They were their game that they played in Washington. They got outshot 45-15. It reminded me of a game we were playing in the Centennial Tournament in Winnipeg. I don't know if I told you this before. We were playing the Russians, and it was the pre-Olympic tournament, and it was a big tournament, Canada. In the first 6 minutes, the Russians, we never touched the puck, and while the game's going on, that's when Mariucci threw another puck on the ice, and the referee blows the whistle, comes over. What are you doing? And Mariucci says, "We want to play too." And that was the same thing that it looked like Washington did to the Wild the other night.
Yeah.
They never touched the puck.
That's a good point.
But then they came on from there, and they got better in Philly. They should have won the game in Philly. Eriksson had a wide open net. He hit the pipe. Rebound comes out. They take the puck down the ice, and Philly wins in overtime. And then they did get to their game against New York the whole way. So I'm hoping that progression continues tomorrow night. Then it's going to be an excellent game to watch. It'll be a fast game to watch, but the Wild will be able to win it if they play the way they were playing last night.
You know, you do a good job of staying connected to the team regardless of where you are, but I'm wondering how much more you feel you do and can pick up when you're around the team more regularly, like on this road trip.
Oh, a lot. That's an excellent question, Dan. It's like anything else, I guess. You get on the inside. Some of the other guys might not, but I like to talk to players, the coaches, and this morning I spent 25 minutes, 30 minutes questioning one of the coaches about their defensive system and play and why they do this and not this. And I wouldn't be doing that if I'm at home watching the games on TV or just in the stands watching. So I get a better understanding of why they're doing some things, you know. And it's different because the game is so much different than it was when I was involved in it. It's gotten, and these guys are faster, and they use different systems, and it's something that I can see and I question and want to know their reasoning for things. And that's what I used to do when I was a general manager. I'd come down after the game, sit down with the coach and say, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? And if they wanted to do it, fine. And they'd say, was that it? Yeah, I just want to understand your thinking.
Sure.
And when I'm here with the team like that, I get to pick up a lot that I wouldn't.
Last item for you, this question is for a sports fan, not necessarily just a hockey guy, because I know you think more broadly than that for sure. And we frankly have not spent enough time on this show on the Shohei Ohtani story, what he pulled off the other night, 6 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts, and 3 home runs, one of them out of Dodger Stadium, which is not exactly easy to do. I don't even know where to begin. People are trying to decide, where does that performance rank? I don't know if it's first, second, third, or fourth. I just know that it's otherworldly, and we should not take that kind of performance for granted.
What is the best picture from that night that you can remember? I'll tell you what it is in my mind.
Go ahead.
It's when he hit the one out of the stadium, and they panned the Dodger dugout.
Yes.
And you saw a couple of them with their hands on their head and their mouth open, like, what the hell?
Yes.
It was unbelievable. That picture will stay in my mind. Ohtani happens to be one of my favorite players. I had this thing that goes back to when I was a youngster. I used to play more baseball than hockey, and I used to love the Tigers. Like I said, I went watching the Detroit Tigers from when I was 6 years old every year to 20. And because I liked the Detroit Tigers so much, I hated the New York Yankees. And we used to have a Sunday game in my neighborhood, the Tigers against the Yanks. And so I became a big Tiger fan because I hated the Yanks. So because I hated the Yanks, I loved the Brooklyn Dodgers. So I've always been a Dodger fan. When they moved to L.A., American League, I'm Detroit Tigers. National League, I'm Los Angeles Dodgers. So now I've been, I follow the Dodgers, and I can't believe how much money they spent. But this guy in $700 million. But my God, last night after the game, we all went to. They had food for us back at the hotel, and we got the game on. And I'm actually excited that Toronto's going to win because Toronto hasn't won since, 93? And to have that series, Toronto and the Dodgers, and I still got to cheer for the Dodgers. Everybody said, well, you're from Canada, you got to love Toronto. I said, well, I like Toronto, but I love the Dodgers.
Right.
And I'm really looking forward to that just to watch this guy because I can't understand how would you have a better performance in any sport.
Can't.
What can you do? How can you... This kind of stuff hasn't happened since Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth, yes.
When somebody can pitch and hit like that. And here he not only pitches, he gets 10 strikeouts, and then he hits 3 in one out of the stadium. It's crazy.
Well, what impresses me, Louis, we're in an era in all sports where everything's specialized, right? More specialized than it's ever been. Sometimes I think to a sport's detriment. But this guy is so talented that he rendered all the new rules moot. You know what I'm saying? They said it doesn't matter that, no, you do one thing or the other. Those days are over where you might have played around back and forth. But this guy is so extraordinary that none of that, no one's even arguing that any longer. That point can't even be made with a straight face. That's how good he is.
I ask myself, is he the best professional athlete that I've seen?
Yeah.
That's where it goes to, because Gretzky's been unbelievable in hockey, and Jordan's been unbelievable in basketball, but are they better than Ohtani? He's been in baseball. This is crazy, because they're doing two things where the others, they all were great at their sport, but I can't believe that this guy can pitch the way he pitches and hit the way he hits and play as he does. I don't know.
Appreciate you. Have fun on the road trip. Have fun putting people, it was putting people to sleep, but there was a nice...
Well, here, one more reminder.
Let's listen.
Let's just make sure everybody knows.
This is an individual out of nowhere. According to TikTok, who was listening to Luigi on the Wild TV broadcast.
Watching this Wild and Rangers game, and whoever this commentator is like the chillest dude on the planet. Like, he's borderline putting me to sleep. I don't know who this guy is, but...
There it is. That's so good.
The chillest dude on the planet.
The chillest dude on the planet.
Lou Nanne.
That's too good.
I told him that was Friday night state tournament. I'm watching Hill Murray Moorhead. I fall asleep. I wake up. They're in overtime. Louis mad, and it's the best. It's the best.
I said the same thing in the letter I wrote for the Hall of Fame to get you in that Hall of Fame thing, man. The soothing nature. And it is ironic because you are, obviously, when you watch games, you're not commentating them. You're all over the place. I've been in those rooms with you, and it's entertaining, but you ain't exactly chill.
There's still a broken table at the X.
But the voice during broadcasts, it's exactly that. It is very, very chill. There's no doubt about it. Have fun with your favorite hockey team, and we'll great stuff as always. We'll chat next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
Thanks, Luigi. Lou Nanne, brought to you by our good friends at Kemp's. I mentioned we're going to go A section. After a busy first 90 minutes in the toy department, we're always appreciative when our next guest stops by to see us, and that indeed is Andy Luger, the former U.S. attorney for the state of Minnesota. He is coming up next, largely to talk about an op-ed piece that's getting a lot of attention that he wrote or that was published in the Star Tribune over the weekend. We'll probably get to some other items, as we often do with Andy as well, when we return. Almost every time we have our next guest on, the subjects are fairly serious. And that might lend to the notion that people think, God, is everything about Andy Luger serious? I mean, does he get out ever? Does he smile? Does he crack a smile? Does he ever go to a concert? Does he ever see a game? So maybe we should reestablish some of these parameters there before we get into the more serious stuff, so people do know that you do make it a point to try to get out from a lot of the serious stuff in order probably to keep your sanity, right?
Well, I have other interests.
Yes, you do have other interests, including apparently going to every concert recently. Is that correct?
McCartney Friday night and Elvis Costello last night. I've been an Elvis Costello fan literally from the day he burst onto the scene in 1977. And McCartney is McCartney. So, yes, and then a Vikings game in between.
Yeah, that's it.
Which you could call that serious.
Yeah, kind of. So give me your Costello review first. What'd you think?
So this was a concert this is a tour in which he's playing mostly his old stuff, the first 3 or 4 albums, that's what, I kind of grew up with him on. And it was phenomenal. He changes the songs a little bit. Sure. People get a little upset about that. And his voice isn't what it was, of course. But a lot of energy, and he's fun and funny and talking to the audience, and a lot of joy in it, as well as him saying, "You Americans, you got stuff to work on." But it was interesting because if you think about his first couple albums, songs are really dark. You know,
Yes.
he's got Allison, My Aim Is True. And he talked about that. And he goes, look, I'm going to play these songs tonight. It doesn't mean I'm talking about where we are right now.
Gotcha. Right.
So it was fun.
Part of my history.
Yeah, he played for a long time, and it was he did great band, great camaraderie. That was great. McCartney Friday night was it's McCartney. So you're sitting there watching. The thing, for anybody who was there, the thing that touched me the most, and I've seen it at least online, he does a split screen with John Lennon from the rooftop concert singing I've Got a Feeling. And that just gets me because,
That's a lot of, there's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Oh.
So is it at a point with him for you that even if he doesn't have the same range, can't reach all the same notes, that almost becomes immaterial?
Yeah. I mean,
You have to accept it, don't you?
So I articulated this Sunday watching the Vikings at the game. It's like you don't go, Carson Wentz isn't, Montana. So you got Carson Wentz, it's Carson Wentz. That's who you're going to get. And, there'll be some good. McCartney is just McCartney. And it's great just to see him up there and to see him, he's going to play, he's going to sing Hey Jude. He's going to sing Let It Be. It's not going to be like 1969.
Right.
But it's still McCartney.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the best comparison.
No, I get your point. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. What you're saying, Garza?
It is maybe the first time Carson Wentz and Paul McCartney have ever been put in the same sentence.
You might make the preposterous statement tournament of the noon to 3 show. It's very, very possible, even though that's not what your intent was. I get the contrast.
There may be some texts about that.
Yeah, there might be a couple of those. Well, I said for years, I always felt guilty because I went through that period where it was not fashionable to like McCartney as much as you were supposed to like John Lennon.
Yep.
Right? And I fell into that trap because that's what everybody else was doing. And I look back on it and I said, what an idiot. You didn't really have to make those kinds of choices. They both brought their own strengths. But the McCarthy ability, the melodies that he created, my God, I just don't know how you argue with it.
You can't. I mean, so I had a moment when the tickets were offered. My friend reached out and said, should we do this? Because he's going to sing a couple of songs from the late 70s that you just hate.
Yes.
So
yes.
He did.
Yes.
I call it his silly love songs phase.
Yes, I'm with you.
And so he did Let Him In, and he did, Coming Up. And it's almost like I had a hold of my, it's
Right.
that bad.
Yeah,
It's that
yeah,
bad. And
yeah.
you really want to say, Paul, we get
we
it.
don't
You
need
did
it.
that.
Yep.
Lots of other stuff.
Yeah.
But he's going to do what he's going to do. And, he was not my favorite Beatle. I mean, it was Lennon, Harrison, then McCartney for me. But, it was just amazing to watch him. And he started with Help. And I don't know why he's doing that, because that's one of the iconic Lennon songs. But good for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for him.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
For sure. I always wondered how much more in terms of song making that George Harrison had in him that we'll never know, because early, obviously, it was going to be Lennon McCartney dominated because you couldn't argue with it.
But then Harrison kind of came into his own, right? In the White Album, and then Let It Be in Abbey Road,
Yep.
and then obviously All Things Must Pass. He kind of got shoved aside. He had a bad tour in the early 70s. People gave him a hard time.
Right.
Took it hard. Then he kind of came back mid-70s with some really good songs, really good albums. He was so torn about how he felt about the music business. But if you listen to, he did a concert in Japan with Eric Clapton. If you listen to that, it's like magic.
Is it?
Yeah,
I haven't
the
heard it.
two of them playing mostly his songs.
There's a great, I'm going to try to look it up real quick here, George Harrison documentary that was on, I don't know where it originated, called Living in the Material World. Have you seen it? It's lengthy. I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah, and he's just fascinating.
Yes,
of
fascinating.
all of them.
Yep.
And the concert for Bangladesh, which I still remember. I wasn't there, but I had friends who went at Madison Square Garden, is just electric. And what they pulled off in 1971 is incredible. And, we were going to miss, he's one of those people that you never know what he would have done and where would have gone.
All right, let's get an early break in, and then we can indeed get to more serious stuff. We'll mix in text from time to time. 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. A very compelling op-ed piece that Andy wrote that appeared in the Star Tribune over the weekend. That's going to kind of be our starting point. We'll get into some other areas as well as he lays out what his objective regarding that particular piece when we come back.
Boston punk legends Dropkick Murphys are set to hit the Palace Theater on March 6th. Don't miss out. Tickets on sale now. You can get the full details at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
For Vikings fans, let's remind them, in case they've not heard, the obvious has been made official today. Carson Wentz will start Thursday night in Los Angeles against the Chargers. J.J. McCarthy is still not ready. We'll all assume the date he'll be ready will be that Lions game a week from this coming Sunday. But it will not be Guardsy's guy Brosmer, at least starting
for now.
It'll be Carson Wentz on Thursday evening. All right. Andy Luger is back with us in studio, former U.S. attorney. Tell us about, for people who have not picked up, that's a dated thought, or read online via StarTribune.com, your op-ed piece. Tell me the thrust of it, and maybe even at the start, what prompted you to say, this is something I want to get out there?
So, way back when, in 2014, when I was U.S. Attorney the first time, we were tracking an ISIS conspiracy, ISIS recruiting conspiracy, ended up prosecuting quite a number of people locally who were being recruited and joining ISIS, and that's a crime. So I learned a lot in 2014 about the radicalization process and violent extremism, of which, radical ISIS terrorism is one branch. So I learned about that. And then we really started to see an uptick in 2015 of hate crime, recruiting violent extremists on white supremacist sites and neo-Nazi sites. Sort of learned about that. And so that's sort of the ideological violent extremism that I learned a good deal about. And I met a number of experts around the country, analysts, researchers, people who live in that world, studying it and trying to figure out what to do about it. I come out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in January of 2025, go back to my law firm, and we obviously have had sort of horrific violent episodes, both locally and nationally. And so I reached back out to the friends who track violent extremism and said, what's going on? And they sort of clue me into this relatively new phenomenon of non-ideological violent extremism, which has now been tagged nihilistic violent extremism. The difference being, in history, violent extremists who ascribe to an ideology have to be recruited and taught and have to sort of buy into that ideology, whether it's white supremacy or neo-Nazis or terrorists. And you have to convince people to believe in your cause. This relatively new phenomenon, there's no cause, and you don't have to buy into anything, and you don't have to be convinced of anything. It's just people who want to commit violence, mass violence, targeted violence, harm against vulnerable people. And they now have sites that they, in platforms to come together, and it's growing. And at least two of the recent school shootings, one in Tennessee and one elsewhere, were linked to people who are on these sites. And so that's a new problem and a new phenomenon that a number of people, the FBI, local law enforcement, but also independent researchers and analysts are studying and looking at, and it's quite horrific and quite scary. And I decided, as I talk, you said I'm too serious at dinner parties. I'm like the guy in the corner that nobody wants to talk to, because other than the Vikings, which I could talk about, or the Beatles, I want to talk about whatever's current. And it was very clear to me that, just like I was, nobody knew about this. So I thought, let's put it in writing, let's bring it out. And now we're looking to convene. I've got a working group that's looking to convene some of the experts, some public policy and public health experts, to talk about what do we do about this? Because it's kind of growing and it's frightening. When the experts are frightened, that means something to me.
The nihilistic violent extremists, NVEs, that's the term.
Yeah,
correct?
So the way this comes about is every branch of violent extremists get their initials. So race broad-based violent extremism, RBVE. We have a number of different, and this one, when people started looking at it, they decided to call it nihilistic violent extremism. And it's a broad-based, and not everybody fits perfectly, and there's a debate amongst, there's
sure,
like anything else. There's a debate about how much it is, but there's one site that I write about in the article called Watch People Die. And it is exactly what it describes. But they're all trying to convince each other to be the next mass murderer. And so I was talking to somebody the other day who tracks Watch People Die, and there are now 4 million people actively on Watch People Die. So that means something. And since the only goal is not to join a group and have meetings and champion your neo-Nazi ideology, it's just to kill people and watch other people kill people, this is something we got to pay attention to.
The Dark Knight, as you're talking, that's what I'm thinking about. The 2008 film, there's a moment where Alfred, talking about the Joker, turns to Batman and says, some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're talking about here, correct?
So the most extreme version of NVEs want to destroy society. Not make it better because it's going to be for the white race or for this or for that or for ISIS, but just destroy it all because there is no better. That's the most extreme. And the critics of this NVE within this sort of expert group, so that's not everybody. Some people just want to go online and see you torture an animal. They're not thinking about destroying society, or they literally want to see somebody commit suicide and film it. They don't have any greater goal.
Right.
But that's what's happening on these sites.
So the idea, the challenge is to identify the individuals who have worse intent than just, I like to watch this stuff, I just like to be a spectator to this sort of thing. And I assume the internet age in which we live is, once again, where we talk about this on so many other things, is the biggest challenge. Because I would assume you would agree that there were people like this forever. But now there's a place to assemble in a way that they couldn't, and talk to and meet other people who are similarly inclined.
I think a lot of us, I don't know about you, Dan, when growing up in New Jersey, I had a kid who kind of liked to watch sort of awful stuff. Mm-hmm. I won't name him because he's still around, but he lived near me in my little town. And he was the kind of person who, if there was if a dog got hit in the middle of the street, he'd watch it suffer. This is not new. The problem is there are now sites where they all get together and encourage each other to create these moments and film them. So the Washington Post ran a story late last week about people on one of these sites in getting a vulnerable young kid and convincing him to commit suicide, 12 years old, and to film it. And he does. And so there's this film of a 12-year-old committing suicide, and the people on the site are gleeful because this is what they want. And so I think we just have to address the fact that this exists. We got to think about ways that educators and parents can talk about this. I was talking to one person the other day, and he said, it's not like we can call a school assembly and say, don't do drugs. This is not, don't go on this site and encourage somebody to commit suicide. You can't do that. So what are the creative ways? I don't know, but I want to convene people who are thoughtful and can help all of us. So if you're a parent or you're a grandparent and you got kids going to, we don't know what sites they're on.
Right.
So,
all right, let's make this a top of the hour break. There's a bunch more items I have about this particular piece that we can spin off on as well. Andy Luger, kind enough to join us in studio. He will be with us for another 30 minutes. Keep the text coming. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is 64686.